Mariah Woelfel, WBEZ city government and politics reporter, is on the floor of the DNC at the United Center at this very moment, and she joins me now. Hey, Mariah.
Hey, Sasha.
What's it like out there? Describe the atmosphere.
Well, I am standing right on the floor of the United Center arena where, Vice President Kamala Harris will make her speech Thursday night. We'll hear from President Joe Biden this evening, as well as Hillary Clinton. It's pretty surreal to be here. Right now, it's calm. Journalists are just kind of milling about, and people coming in to see what the setup is like. Bernie Sanders just walked past me, Senator Bernie Sanders, to check out the stage. It's crazy to be here because I'm thinking of I tried to make a list of all the artists I've seen here in the past couple of years: Kid Cudi, Alicia Keys, Kendrick Lamar, the Bulls, and the Blackhawks, and it's a much different arena today.
Yeah.
The DNC 2024 logo is everywhere. There's a big, kind of beautiful, fancy stage. And so right now it's chill. I think people, delegates and politicians are kind of out and about around the city at different forums.
Well, catch us up in the meantime on some of the activity that's already taken place, Mariah. I mean, there were Chicagoans protesting the DNC yesterday. So what do we know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Protests are going to continue throughout the week. The first one was yesterday. That was Bodies Outside of Unjust Laws, an LGBTQ plus positivity group fighting for LGBTQ rights and right to access for health care for women. And today we have the rally, the pro-Palestinian rally that's heating up just blocks away at Union Park. I think they were still kind of working out to the very last minute what their route is going to be. As you know, they were in debate, a fight with the city, a legal battle with the city about where their route will be. So we'll see where they head. But that, is kicking off now, if not already started. And I think there were a few thousand people based on what I saw from the reporters we have out there, and organizers expecting much more people.
The main programming doesn't start until this evening, but there were several caucus meetings this morning. What were they talking about?
Yeah, so I think the main ones each morning are the delegation breakfasts, where different speakers from each state's party get up and talk about their vision for the Democratic Party within their state from a local level, and tout what they see as their accomplishments. The Illinois delegation breakfast took place this morning, and it had a surprise guest, Gwen Walz, the wife of the vice president nominee Tim Walz, made a surprise appearance at that breakfast, and she and her husband met as teachers in Nebraska. And so there's a lot of talk about educators, about teachers, about putting children first, and she likened her first stop, which was at the Illinois delegation breakfast, to the first period of class on the first day of school. And there's going to be a lot of teacher talk. Speaking of former teachers, Mayor Brandon Johnson is also expected to speak this evening as well for a 3-minute, a short little introduction speech.
I see. Anything else you're anticipating for later today?
No, really watching for Mayor Johnson's speech. I think he is going to try to really highlight his historic mayoral candidacy coming from a Labor Party organizer, just the second Black man mayor, the third Black mayor of Chicago, and kind of liken that to the historic nature of this DNC, where we will see the first Black woman receive a major party nomination in the history of our country. And so I think he'll kind of try to lean on those ties.
We've been speaking with WBEZ city government and politics reporter Mariah Woelfel. Thank you for checking in, Mariah.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Now let's turn to a WBEZ reporter who is staked out in the perimeter of the United Center. It's Michael Puente. Hey, Mike. Welcome back.
Hey, Sasha. How are you?
Doing well. Sounds like you are surrounded out there. I know the first protest today for the DNC started just minutes ago. So tell us what you're hearing, what you're seeing.
Well, I'm at Union Park, which is about, 2 or 3 blocks away from the United Center. Nice park, but there's a lot of people here. I don't want to put an estimate on the crowd. Or maybe 10,000 people, 5 to 10,000.
Wow.
It's very peaceful, heavy police presence. But there's representatives of just about every group that wants to protest, from take Cuba off the terrorist list, to anti-abortion groups, but the main group here are those supporting Palestine. They're here marching, a lot of Palestinian flags, and there's some flags here supporting Israel here too. So far though, no confrontations that I am aware of. Everything's very peaceful.
What exactly are those groups calling for?
Well, of course, the pro-Palestinian groups are calling for an end to aid and assistance in Israel. They want the war to stop, and they just want U.S. support for Israel to stop. Meanwhile, Israel folks are out here saying, hey, we want the support. We didn't do anything wrong. We're allowed to defend ourselves, especially for the terrorist attack last fall. So you've got different factions here, but the majority here are pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, we can hear a lot of the chatter in the background there, Mike, so it definitely sounds like the action is starting. Now, lots of police presence, as you mentioned. The police aren't the only ones hoping to protect safety. Organizers have also been prepping for months here, right, to keep folks safe. What have they told you, Mike?
That's right. A lot of the groups who are protesting, they practice things like to sort of keep fighting down, to just try to keep things peaceful. You've got also what they call street medical doctors. You got doctors who are, or medical folks going around making sure people have enough water, that they're okay. I saw a guy walking around with a stethoscope on, ready to even aid people if they need it.
Yeah.
Right now it's nice and cool. It's not too hot. It doesn't seem like people are going to get overheated. But they are trained to try to de-escalate arguments, trying to calm the situation down, because if things get violent, that's where things can just get out of hand.
Yeah. There are also protests planned for Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Is that right, Mike?
That's right. I believe there are protests all this week, and primarily from the same groups. They're probably going to have more and more people join in. I mean, the organizers, the pro-Palestinian organizers I've spoken to over the last month or so have said they expect tens of thousands of people here to try to put pressure on the Democrats, full support for Israel.
Yeah. We'll be digging into concerns over press freedom later this hour on Reset, Mike. But before you go, I want you to tell us, what has being out in the field been like for you so far as a journalist?
So far, so good. I remember when NATO was around, and that got a little contentious. Hopefully things will just stay calm, allow people to voice their opinion. That's why we're here in America, where everybody has freedom of speech. And as press right now, let's face it, all sides can have an issue with the press. Sometimes people forget what our role in this. We're not supposed to take sides, just report. If people understand that, we'll be fine. But sometimes all the protesters forget that, no matter what side they're on. Even the cops sometimes forget that. So, I'm going to keep an eye on that as well.
All right, Mike, we'll let you go. We've been speaking with WBEZ reporter Michael Puente. We appreciate you checking in. Stay safe. I want to turn now to Lynn Sweet. That's Washington bureau chief for the Chicago Sun-Times. Lynn spent her morning inside the convention at McCormick Place and is now heading to the United Center. Hey, Lynn.
Well, hi. So right now I'm in line to get through security checkpoint. I'm standing out front of the Fifth Third Arena. That's where the Chicago Blackhawks community ice rink is. So the entry point for media is through Malcolm X College on Jackson. And there's a real long line of people to start snaking through security. Glad I got here early. If anyone wants to know what it's like to get around here, there is a big security perimeter. We just get dropped off a few blocks away and hike in.
Yeah. So what have you been covering so far this morning, Lynn?
This morning I covered a press conference put on by officials in the Harris campaign, the Democratic National Campaign Committee, where they talked a lot about and previewed what will happen later today. And they told us about some of the other speakers who will be on the bill tonight, but we still don't have a complete list.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts today as well as this week. We just got an update from Michael Puente, who's on the ground at a massive protest in Union Park. We also talked with Mariah Woelfel, who's at the United Center as well. But what are you going to be watching out for the rest of the day?
Well, I have, I'm working on our live blog. I'm working on the newsletter. And yes, I'll get a column here. So what I have are some interviews in my pocket with people I've run into asking about a series of questions dealing with politics, with Harris, with Hillary Clinton. He'll be speaking. So we're in a moment of lull where I have stopped covering for a moment, and I have so much stuff in my notebook I have to figure out what I'm going to say. Now, just as a report on the program update, I've learned, though it hasn't been announced yet, that Senator Dick Durbin, the Illinois governor, will be speaking tonight at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most famous members of the House, AOC, is on the bill tonight. Kentucky Governor Beshear is on tonight. Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin is. And the officials teased us a little bit, saying it's going to be some kind of entertainment, and
Okay.
we just don't know who. And if you ask me if Beyonce is coming, I don't know.
How did you know that was going to be my next question, Lynn? You read my mind. Mariah mentioned this to us earlier, that a lot of people are expecting to hear from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson tonight.
Oh, I forgot. Forgive me, listeners, and Brandon Johnson, if you're listening.
Yes.
You are kicking off the event, and I did a preview of his speech as people are nice enough to share me some information. Basically, there are 3 pillars in it. The Welcome to Chicago, talking about his own experiences being a black man raising a black daughter on the west side of Chicago, and he relates in how much he relates to the vice presidential candidate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who, like him, was a teacher.
Mm-hmm. You know, this isn't your first rodeo, Lynn. You've covered, 17 of these political conventions?
This will be my 17th. I've covered 15 in person, the last 2 in 2020 virtually.
Virtually, yeah. Well, considering the historic nature of this election, Lynn, I mean, does this convention feel any different to you?
Well, partly because it's in Chicago, as it did in 1996 when we were here. But here's what is different. We have a campaign that isn't even a month old. So we're talking about a turnaround operation like we have never seen in our lifetime. No one has. So part of the conventions are always the same. There's merchandise, there's buttons. There's a who's who of the Democratic world.
Mm-hmm.
You run into people, from covering this and that, locally, nationally. But what is different this time is that you have a president who for whatever reason, pushed. Did he jump or was he, or pushed, is now not running. And by the way, I think history won't dwell on the fact that history won't dwell on the few weeks after his disastrous debate with Trump.
Yeah.
He will be treated, I think, kinder as a president who realized he couldn't win, stepped aside and handed the baton to a woman he put in place. He did, and I'm sure this will be talked about tonight,
Mm-hmm.
to be, if elected, the nation's first female president.
Yeah.
So one of the things at the briefing this morning that I went to, I asked the chair of the Democratic National Convention Committee, Mignon Moore, about the impact of Hillary speaking, because we haven't talked a lot about that, and we haven't heard a lot about it. In some ways, I'm more interested in what she will have to say than Biden, since her speech hasn't been extensively previewed, but rest assured she will be talking about finally maybe breaking that glass ceiling, the glass ceiling she thought she was about to break herself.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things going on in the speakers, but so I'm collecting my thoughts. My column should be as we speak.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, in a few minutes, we are actually going to get into a conversation about the role that these political conventions have and why they matter. So a lot of what you were just sort of describing. So
yes. Yeah.
I want your take, because you've covered them closely for so long, Lynn. I mean, what would make the DNC a success in the Democrats' eyes?
What would make the what?
What would make the convention a success in their eyes?
If Harris wins. It's that simple. Okay? It's that simple. If she gets a bounce from it, sustains it, and makes no mistake. This is not a secret. This is not unique. Trump had a good convention. He did not come out of it with any controversy. Frankly, having that assassination attempt the Saturday before the convention in Milwaukee drew him properly an enormous amount of sympathy because he was almost, shot at and assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
So the role of a convention, and everybody who's listening, it's just some things are complex and some things are simple. That's the role. And a success, you look at success in other ways. It's really for other people. There's going to be a spotlight on the pipeline of the next generation of Democrats, and you'll be hearing a lot from them.
Yeah.
This is where you measure success more. Did somebody make a speech or introduce themselves to you who you never even knew about before? And now you keep an eye at it. Or does somebody make a speech that makes them a laughingstock?
We'll have to see. We've been talking with Sun-Times Washington Bureau Chief Lynn Sweet. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you.